She read the letter standing up, one hand still wrapped around the handle of a coffee pot, and the words went through her like a nail through pine. Ruth is dying. Ruth wants to see you. 3 days, maybe 4. The pot did not fall. Her face did not change. She folded the paper twice, slipped it into the pocket of her apron, and called out to table 2 that their eggs were coming right up. But to understand how a woman can carry news like that in her apron pocket and still pour coffee with a steady hand, you have to go back, not 31 years, not quite that far yet, but back to the morning that letter came, and the apron it slid into, and the mother who long ago cut 2 squares from the same bolt of flour sack cloth and stitched them by lamplight for 2 little girls who still slept in the same bed. Della Mae Pruitt's diner sat half a mile outside Gadsden, on the old Atala Road, where the asphalt gave up and the red clay began. 4 tables, a counter with 5 stools, a screen door that slapped behind every customer, and a hand-lettered sign in the window that read, "Pruitt's, open 6 to 2, closed Sunday." She had run it since 1921. She was 58 years old that March morning, and the red buds along the creek were already throwing their pink against the gray, and the air coming through the screen smelled like mud and something beginning. The mailman came at 7:15, the way he always did, and slid a thin handful of envelopes onto the counter between the sugar bowl and the napkin holder. Della did not look at them until after the rush. The rush was 14 souls that morning, 2 truckers from over by Anniston, the Whitlow boys before they headed to the rail yard, old Miss Pearl who took her toast burned and her coffee black, a young couple passing through who held hands under the table like they thought nobody saw, and the regulars who never said much and never had to. She moved between them the way she had moved for 31 years. Plate down, cup filled, a word here, a nod there. More coffee, sugar? Biscuits hot, mind your fingers. She did not drop a single plate. She did not chip a single cup. Her hands knew the work better than her mind knew her own name, and the letter sat in her apron pocket like a stone in a shoe, and every step she took she felt it, and every smile she gave was real, because the smile and the stone had learned to live together a long time ago. When the last customer left and the screen door slapped shut behind him, the diner went quiet in that particular way diners go quiet. The tick of the coffee urn, the hum of the icebox, a fly somewhere near the window. Della turned the sign. She wiped down the counter. She carried the bus tray back through the swinging door into the kitchen, and she set it down on the work table. And then her knees went out from under her, gentle as a curtain falling, and she sat herself down on the burlap flour sack in the corner by the flour barrel, and she did not move. Her hands lay open in her lap, palms up, the way a woman's hands lie when she has finally set down what she has been carrying. The apron she wore was old. The pattern had faded to almost nothing. Tiny blue cornflowers once on cream-colored cloth. Her mother had cut 2 squares from the same bolt the spring Della turned 12 and Ruth turned 10, and stitched them by the kerosene lamp at the kitchen table, and said when she handed them over, "Now you've got something the same. Don't you ever forget that." Della had not forgotten. She had just put it somewhere it could not hurt her. She sat on the flour sack and she did not cry. She did not pray, not yet. She just sat. The light came through the high kitchen window the way it had come through that window for 31 springs, and a redbud branch tapped once against the glass,
and somewhere down the road a dog barked twice and went still. An hour passed.
The clock above the icebox ticked it out, minute by minute, and the woman who had served 14 breakfasts without dropping a single plate sat with her hands open in her lap and let the stone in her pocket finally have its weight. She got up off the flour sack the way an older woman gets up off anything, slow, with one hand on the flour barrel for balance, and she finished her closing the way she finished it every day, wiped the grill, banked the coals in the stove, set the biscuit bowl out for the morning under a clean towel. She drove the 3 miles home in her old Ford coupe with the letter still in her pocket, and she did not take it out, and she did not read it again. She did not have to. She knew what it said. That night she lay in her narrow iron bed under the quilt her mother had pieced, and she stared at the ceiling, and the clock on the dresser ticked, and the wind moved a loose shingle somewhere over the kitchen, and she did not decide a thing. There are two kinds of not deciding. There is the kind where a person is running, and there is the kind where a person is waiting. Della was waiting. She did not know for what. Wednesday came. She opened at 6. She poured coffee for the Whitlow boys and slid plates in front of the truckers, and she made 28 biscuits before 9, and the red bud outside the window kept on doing what red buds do in March, which is bloom whether anybody is watching or not. Old Miss Pearl came in and said, "You look tired, sugar." And Della said, "I slept fine," which was a lie that Miss Pearl was kind enough to let lie. The cousin did not come by. The cousin had said her piece in the letter and was leaving the rest to the Lord and to Della, in that order. Wednesday night Della took the letter out and laid it flat on the kitchen table and looked at it the way you look at a snake that is not quite dead. She did not read it. She just looked. Then she folded it back into her apron pocket and went to bed. Thursday morning, 6 o'clock. The diner smelled like biscuits and bacon grease, and the coffee was strong enough to stand a spoon up in. The old farmer came in at 6:40, the way he came in every Thursday for going on 9 years now. Mr. Hollis Brewer, 71 years old, a widower since the spring of '46, a man who farmed 40 acres of poor ground out toward Steele, and who never said 3 words when 2 would do. He took the third stool from the end. He hung his hat on the peg. He did not order because he did not have to. 2 eggs over medium, 1 biscuit, sausage if she had it, coffee black. Della set the plate in front of him without a word, and filled his cup and turned to the grill. He ate the way he always ate, slow, careful, like a man who had once gone hungry and had not forgotten. When he was done, he pushed the plate back 2 inches and wrapped both hands around the coffee cup and looked out the window at the red bud and the gray road and the morning getting itself going. Della was wiping down the counter beside him. The diner was empty except for the 2 of them. The clock ticked. The coffee urn breathed. And Hollis Brewer set down his cup, and without turning his head, without looking at her, without any preamble at all, he said, "You know what I've learned, Miss Della? Forgiveness ain't for them. It's for you. It's the only way out of a room you didn't even know you was locked in." He said it the way a man says the weather. Then he reached into the pocket of his overalls and laid down his exact change on the counter, 3 quarters and a dime, the way he always did, and he put on his hat, and he walked out, and the screen door slapped shut behind him. Della stood there, the rag in one hand, the coffee pot in the other. She did not move. She looked down at the change on the counter, 3 quarters and a dime, laid out like a small offering, and something inside her chest that had been welded shut for 31 years made a sound. Not a loud sound, just a small giving way, the way ice gives when the spring finally comes for it. She set the coffee pot down on the warmer. She put both hands flat on the counter. And then, quiet enough that nobody but the kitchen could hear it, she said the only prayer she had in her. Lord, I don't know how. You're going to have to tell me how. Because I have carried this thing so long, I don't know which part is the hurt and which part is me. I am tired, Lord. I am so tired. If you want me to go, you move my feet. I can't move 'em on my own. She stood there a long time after. The coffee urn ticked. The redbud branch tapped once at the window the way it had tapped the day before. And Della Mae Pruitt, who had not cried in 31 years, did not cry then either. But she untied her apron, and she folded it once, and she laid it on the counter beside Hollis Brewer's 3 quarters and a dime, and she knew, the way a woman knows a thing without being told, that tomorrow she would drive to the county hospital. Friday morning she drove the 17 miles into Gadsden with her hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel and the redbuds running pink along the creek beds the whole way in. She parked at Holy Name County Hospital and sat in the Ford for a full 5 minutes before she made her feet move. The lobby smelled like floor wax and somebody's chrysanthemums going brown in a vase. A nurse in a white cap pointed her down a long hall with a green linoleum floor. Room 214. She stopped outside the door and put her palm flat against it, and the door was cool, and she could hear, on the other side of it, the slow, shallow breathing of a woman who did not have much breath left. She pushed it open. The room smelled like antiseptic and old grief, the way those rooms always do. A single bed by the window, a metal chair, a cross on the wall above the headboard that somebody had put there with 2 small nails. And in the bed, propped up on 2 pillows, was Ruth, smaller than Della had carried her in her mind for 31 years. Cheeks fallen in, hair gone almost white, and tucked around her shoulders, not as a garment, but as a comfort, the way you'd tuck a shawl around a child, a flour sack apron, faded almost to nothing, tiny blue cornflowers on cream-colored cloth. Della stopped in the doorway. She put one hand on the doorframe to steady herself. Ruth's eyes opened. They were the same eyes, pale gray, their mother's eyes. They looked at each other across that little green room and across 31 years, and neither one of them said a word for what might have been a minute and might have been 10. Then Ruth said, very quiet, "You came." Della said, "I came." She walked over and sat in the metal chair. She did not take Ruth's hand. Ruth did not reach for hers. Ruth's eyes went down to the apron tucked around her shoulders and back up to Della, and a small, dry smile moved on her mouth. "I never could throw it out," Ruth said. "Mama made it." "I know," Della said. "I'm wearing mine under my coat." Ruth closed her eyes a long moment. When she opened them, they were wet. "Della, I've been writing you a speech in my head for about 3 weeks. Don't give it," Della said. "I know what it says. I've been writing one too. Mine ain't no better than yours." Ruth let out something that was almost a laugh and almost a cough.
We was always our mama's girls, wasn't we? We was.
They sat. A nurse came in and went out. A church bell rang somewhere over toward Broad Street, 11 slow strokes, and they listened to every one. Ruth said,
I done you wrong, Della.
Della said,
I know it. And I done my part too. 31 years of not picking up a telephone. That's a sin of its own kind.
Ruth's hand moved across the blanket, slow, like it weighed a great deal, and Della met it halfway, and they held on. Ruth said,
He wasn't worth what I traded for him.
Della said,
I know that too, sugar. I knew it then.
I just couldn't say it. That was all the speeches either of them gave. They sat the afternoon out together. Ruth slept some. Della watched the light move across the linoleum and watched her sister breathe, and felt the prison door she did not know she had been locked behind for 31 years swing open on its hinges, so quiet nobody but the Lord could have heard it. 4 days later, Ruth died in the early hours of a Tuesday morning. Della was the one the nurse called. She drove in and signed the papers and brought home the apron folded on top of Ruth's other things in a paper sack. She washed it gentle in the kitchen sink and laid it flat to dry on a towel by the window. Then she took her own apron from the peg by the door, and she folded the two of them together, cornflower to cornflower, and she laid them in the cedar chest at the foot of her bed, and she closed the lid. The next Thursday, Hollis Brewer came in at 6:40 the way he always did. He hung his hat on the peg. He took the third stool from the end. Della set down 2 eggs over medium, and 1 biscuit and a strip of sausage, and filled his cup. He looked at her. She looked at him. He did not ask. She did not explain. He laid 3 quarters and a dime on the counter, and put his hat back on, and the screen door slapped shut behind him. The redbud at the window had let go most of its pink by then, and was starting to throw the smallest green leaves out into the spring air. The diner smelled like biscuits, and the morning light came through the window the way it always had. And that is the lesson the story leaves in your hand tonight, plain enough to carry home. The woman who forgives first does not lose. She walks out of a prison the other person is still building. You have just watched 2 sisters who were given the same wound on the same day and who chose 2 roads. One of them spent 31 years adding bricks to a wall around her own heart, certain she was building a fortress, never seeing she was building a cell. The other one carried her hurt quietly, the way a woman carries a stone in her apron pocket. And the day a stranger said the one true sentence she needed to hear, she set the stone down. She did not go to that hospital room to receive an apology. She went so she would not die with the door locked from the inside. And the Lord, who knows every locked door and every human heart, sent her a Thursday morning farmer with 3 quarters and a dime, and 1 sentence pulled straight out of heaven. Lord, we thank you, not for easy roads, not for hurts that never come. We thank you for the small voices you send at the exact hour we need them. We thank you for stitches our mothers made that outlast our quarrels. We thank you for red buds in March, and for screen doors that slap shut, and for the grace that meets us not a minute too soon and not a minute too late. We thank you for the prison doors you open from the outside, while we sit on the inside thinking we threw away the key. Amen.
And to you, sitting where you are tonight, maybe in a kitchen with the dishes still on the table, maybe in a truck on a dark stretch of highway, maybe in a bed where sleep has not come for a long time. If there is a name you have not spoken in a year, in 10 years, in 30, if there is a door inside you that you have kept shut so long you have forgotten which side of it you are standing on, hear this old story one more time. Forgiveness is not a gift you hand the one who hurt you. It is the key you press into your own palm so you can finally walk out of the room. You do not have to make a speech. You do not have to fix what cannot be fixed. You only have to stop pretending you are a stranger to your own life. Thank you for sitting with Della Mae tonight. Thank you for letting this story find you. If it spoke to something in you, pass it on to one person who needs it. A sister, a friend, a stranger. And if you'd like to keep walking these roads with us, go ahead and subscribe so the next story knows where to find you. Sleep gentle tonight. The Lord is nearer than you think.